everybody. Today is Saturday, July 26th, 2025. Welcome to our very first DMVCBN TV Movie Club. Um, we have been brainstorming this for a while. I'm very excited to present this to everyone. Where in the past, we usually had a mix of discussion on comic books, movies, TV, and all related media. But now, we're with so much stuff happening this month, we decided to put all our talk about TV and movies into this block, and we might continue this throughout the year. But um, let's introduce ourselves really quickly so we can get into all the good discussion. My name is Freddy, aka the DMV Comic Book Nerd, and I am 36 years old. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I love comic books, superheroes. Can't wait to talk about all the stuff that I saw this month. Um, Next, I'd like to introduce a very special guest, Dr. Mercedes Samudio. This is her first time as part of the club, so welcome, welcome. Would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this stuff too because I am a self-proclaimed like Afro nerd, right? And so
Yeah,
I have loved this stuff forever. I am 39 years old, and so I am excited to be talking about this stuff because to be honest with you, when I was a kid, it was kind of hard to talk about this and have those nice communities where people were actually there and wanted to actually share and not just like be the comic book like buff all over you. And so it feels nice now to have a resurgence of this comic book space. So that's who I am. I'm the person that's kind of like you. Like I love the comic book movies from that 90s, 2000s era. Like I really
yeah.
am happy to see the resurgence of that type of fun stuff. So that's who I am. I'm an Afro nerd. I'm a scholar. I am a mental health advocate, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And I gotta say, I think the first time I ever heard you in the on a podcast, I was listening to the House of X podcast. I love that podcast. And I think you were a
Nice.
guest, and yeah, just shout out to them, and shout out to you for just being a positive voice in the nerd space. Like you said, especially us Afro nerds, but Black American nerds, blurs, whatever you want to call us. Like we are
Yeah.
here. We have been here for a long time. I feel
Yeah.
like now our voices are starting to be heard more. So that's one reason why I'm so excited to have you on the show and to hear more of your opinions about all the stuff that's going on, like all the shows. And so let's for well, real quick, I do want you to give us a chance. Like, I think you have a book out currently.
Yes.
Would you like to promote that a little bit?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. So in my day job, so to speak, I am a licensed clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, and I have my own private practice called Shame Proof Parenting, where I primarily work with families and parents who are needing support on their children. And a lot of my research focuses on African American families in particular and supporting and raising their child in a world that kind of tends to want to erase them all the time. And so I published a book called Shame Proof Parenting back in 2017 that really focuses on my ideology around parenting, which is when you focus on how you're supporting your family and taking care of your family more than the opinions about your family, you kind of get this shame proof filter over your family. Doesn't mean shame doesn't come around, but it means that when it does, it doesn't debilitate you and your family so much. And so that's what I do for like a living. That's my day job.
I love that. Yeah, it's like especially because like I love to hear how that relates to your take on Fantastic Four. Lots of
Yeah.
family, lots of parenting,
Yeah.
but we'll get into that for sure. So here's what we're gonna do today. I'm thinking let's try uh 15-minute discussion rounds, and then we'll have a little more extra time at the end, and we'll just see how it goes.
All right.
Um, I'd like to start with Ironheart because that came out last month, but we got and when we discussed it a little bit on a previous comic book club, but we didn't get to discuss the final three episodes. My bad. So I'd love to hear your take because you weren't with us that last time, so I'd love to hear your take
Mhm.
on the first three episodes, and then we can kind of get into our just overall thoughts as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So number one, I absolutely loved Ironheart. And I'm someone who did not do like her full comic run, right? I read like the Invincible Iron Man, I think, and I may have read one of another one or as part of another one, but I came into Ironheart as a pure MCU fan. I came into Ironheart as someone who loved her introduction in Wakanda Forever and really loved Wakanda Forever a lot. And I thought this was a great way to bring in a character who has been Black her whole life and had a world full of Wakanda, but had no access to it. And so for her to come in during that Wakanda space, getting to see that depth of what it looks like to be part of the African diaspora from the MCU Wakandan perspective was really cool. And so by the time we got to Ironheart, I was really ready to see, okay, who is Riri in the MCU? And so those first three episodes, I think, gave us a really good ground that we have a Riri in the MCU that has grown up with Tony Starks and Hank Pym's, like you said at the very beginning, and is looking to kind of carve out a niche for herself, similar to those great minds. And those first three episodes, I think, showed us not just how she's doing it, but sometimes that intersectional space that happens when a Black female genius is trying to do the same things as like cishet white guys get to do, if that makes sense. And so I like those
Hmm.
first three episodes because it kind of gave us that perspective, right? That same genius perspective, but with a Black girl who is like from Chicago, who like has all this real intersectionality. So I really enjoyed the first three episodes for sure.
Yeah, like I'm kind of with you there because like even though I read a lot of comic books, I have not read like well prior to the show I had not read a lot of comic books featuring Ironheart, like a few here and there. I did read some of the 2018 like e-viewing
Yeah.
series before like that same month before the show aired. And they were great. It was a great insight into like who this character is and um kind of prime me for what we were going to get in the show. But yeah, I also got to mention how this show brings in the Hood, who I don't believe is a traditional Ironheart villain. Like I remember I read a few like the debut series of the Hood way back when was a different style of character. I guess let me just say right now we were kind of spoiler free, but I'm gonna lift the spoiler ban now. So if you want
Spoiler
to talk
alert,
spoilers, go
spoiler
for it.
alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. So we learn more about the Hood in this show. He's rich. He's the son of like a millionaire, maybe even a billionaire, and he's got a big chip on his shoulder because his father did not appreciate him. Practically disowned him, which is very different from how he was in the comics. Like I remember the Hood being more like of a street level, like kind of like poor or low income person. Like, and he had a story that was kind of like a reverse um, Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Like you have Peter Parker who has a tough life, but he still is optimistic. He's still a good person. Like he let his tragedy push him to be better. Whereas Parker Robbins, who's the Hood, he kind of like went down a darker path, even though he had similar circumstances. But so it was interesting to learn more about the show and see how they juxtaposed that with Riri. Um, like I think it was episode 2 or 3. We saw her talking to Natalie in front of these like Faust posters. I was like, oh, that seemed like some
yeah,
foreshadowing. Like somebody's gonna make a Faustian bargain, like a deal with the devil. So that was very interesting to see how that all developed. Um, yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the whole series overall. What were some of your favorite moments or characters or themes?
yeah. I definitely loved Riri and Natalie's relationship a lot as it developed. I forget who I was talking to. I think I was talking on another podcast, Untying Knots podcast, where we were talking about how Riri's relationship with Natalie really is the crux of this show because when she lost her stepdad and Natalie, that really kind of set her on this course, right? I think they were going to be maybe, like you were saying, a positive force, right, in her life where they were pushing her to use her brain, but they were doing it in a way that was like, be kind to yourself, be gentle, don't try to rush into everything. And I feel like as soon as they passed, she had this ultimate thing of like, I have to save everybody. I have to do this. I have to make this. I have to make a name for myself. I have to protect my family. And so what ended up happening is that Natalie's AI interface, I think, infuses that or is influenced by that. She's not even getting the real Natalie, her friend who has her own ideas and her own thoughts and can kind of challenge her and check her a little bit. She's got an AI person that does exactly what she wants. And even though she kind of pushes back, if you notice, it's usually kind of at the level that Riri can handle it. Because Riri kind of gets into like these panic attacks when she's like overwhelmed with the reality of what's going on. And so, what I feel overall is that while I love Riri and Natalie's relationship, I think that that being the crux of it is one of the reasons why I love the show. It showed this Black girl magic. It showed this Black girl relationship. It showed Black girls just existing. And for me, as someone who's really developing my like network around being a media consultant and talking about psychology and parenting and media, I really appreciated Ironheart for bringing us this really great story. And then on the other half of it, it gave us such great mythology for the MCU. It showed us that magic and technology is one thing, just like we've seen with Doctor Strange. We've seen his magic, and we've seen Wanda's magic, which was name dropped by Zelma, who
Hmm.
I'm on a rambling page here, but she was really like Velma coded, right? I feel like Zelma had a whole like Scooby Doo Velma thing going for
Yeah,
herself.
Zelma, Velma. I like
Yeah,
that connection.
yeah,
Also, I
yeah,
was getting like Black Sabrina the Teenage Witch vibes. Like
yeah,
I love that.
yeah. And so those are probably my favorite characters, the characters that were really just embodying that Black girlhood. So Velma, Natalie, Riri, I really like those characters a lot. And then
Yeah,
finally, just because I'm putting a tag on my ideas about family, I really like the juxtaposition of Riri having family, even
yeah.
after her stepdad and Natalie died, her family, her aunts,
Hmm.
Xavier, Natalie's brother, they were still around her, whereas Parker lost his family. Once his mom, sorry, spoiler alert, once he lost his mom, his dad kind of gave up on him. So he had no family. Like
Yeah,
nobody was there to nurture him and support him through that grief. And so that juxtaposition was also something that I liked, where Riri had a family and still ended up making interesting decisions, but Parker definitely didn't have that supportive family and
yeah.
made really interesting decisions because of that.
Great points. Like Parker didn't have family. I think though he had John, I think was his
Right.
cousin. And
Yeah.
then when
Yeah.
he lost John, we saw how like devastating that was to him
Yeah.
and how it set him even further down a path of darkness and revenge. And um but also he kept commenting how his crew was like family. Like for a
Yeah.
while, like they had moments where they were like, we're getting along, we're all in this together, like look at this beautiful crew of family that I got. But like it did, Riri showed up and it kind of revealed the cracks because she's like,
Yeah.
how is this a family if you can just easily dispose of people? Like you killed your boy Rampage, like he could kill any one of us. And then she essentially kind of killed John, but like it was in self-defense, is the whole thing. But point is, um, that family did unfortunately, like that second found family kind of crumbled towards the end.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whereas Riri's found family helped her, save the day, so to speak. And I love what you said before about just representation, about, seeing these strong, intelligent Black girls on TV and like as the center focus, like as the lead roles, like that mattered a lot to me. I'm sure to most Black people who watch this show, um, like I did see that Ironheart specifically is influencing Black girls to pursue STEM in school, like
Yeah.
science, technology, all this stuff. Like it's really great. Like we need positive representation and role models like that. Um, However, I do have to mention, I've been listening to a lot of discussion online, and I do see that even in the Black community, we have different opinions about,
Yeah.
what's good representation, what's not. Like, Riri was doing a lot of unsavory things. Like, now that we've seen the whole show, do you feel that Ironheart is a hero?
Yeah, I like that question. I actually feel like she is a hero, and this is why. I think most of the heroes that we have come to love have this darkness about themselves that they have to consistently overcome. It makes them human almost, right? There's this darkness in Tony where because he lost his family, he tends to always think he needs to be in the front and he'll do it by any means necessary. He even created Ultron because he was trying to put a shield of armor around the world and ended up creating a whole murder bot which for those of you who are listening, I don't think Ultron is gone. I think
Hmm.
Ultron is floating around the MCU somewhere waiting for his next moment to show up, you
Oh
know?
yeah, have you heard about the rumors about the new Vision series?
Yes, I have. Exactly. Like, so I'm like, so Tony created something that's still in the MCU and can still do harm. And so I'm not saying that Riri is perfect, but I think one of the things we have to look at is Riri is number one a child still. Like literally, she's a young
Yeah.
adult. So she's like 19, 20 years old. And
Hmm.
not only that, but she also went to MIT at 15, which means that she's really smart, but she might not have all the lived experience or emotional experience to make a lot of these decisions. And so I think
Yeah.
a lot of times we're putting stuff on her that at 19 or 20 years old, people make decisions like this because you're really thinking, how can I figure out who I am? And so I
Hmm.
think a lot of the other superheroes that we're used to, even Batman, I mean, Batman is one of our most iconic superheroes and he's dark AF. Like he's
Hmm.
dark sometimes. He makes really gray decisions sometimes, which we think in the name of vigilantism, okay. And so I think we need to give Riri some space to number one, be a 19-year-old young adult trying to figure out how do I deal with my grief and how do I deal with my ambitions and how do I deal with my social location that puts me here at this space that I can't really get out of sometimes. And so, yes, I would say overall, I think Riri is a hero. And I would even say I think she's on her hero's journey right now, trying to figure out what will be the large term ramifications of me trying to save everybody and trying to save everything by making some of these unsavory kind of gray decisions to do that, if that makes sense.
I love that answer. Yeah, like I definitely agree that like so many heroes are flawed characters. Like humans are naturally
Yeah.
flawed. So it's like I personally think it's good representation to see a flawed human relatable character
Yeah.
who you might agree with some things, you might disagree with other things that they do, but that's what gives them, a full relatable experience. And yeah, like so many things about her journey here. Like you said, it's like it's gonna have pitfalls, it's gonna have, peaks and valleys, but um, I think she is learning. I think she is growing. I mean, we do have to talk about the very end because like
Yes.
okay, so at the end we get the big Mephisto reveal, which everybody was like waiting years for, which was like kind of shocking. But I mean, if you knew some of the rumors, not that shocking. But but I think in the context of the story, it was well done. But essentially, she makes a deal with the devil,
Yes.
and I, uh, I'll speak for myself. I did not expect her to. Like, I really thought, okay, oh, they're talking, but she'll just reject him and it'll be a happy ending. No, that's not what happened. And on the one hand, I'm kind of glad because I feel like this leaves it open for us to potentially get a season two, maybe, or like it leaves you like really wondering, like, wow, like what are the implications of this choice she made? Whereas on the flip side of it, personally, I feel like a majority of black people who are, raised Christian or Baptist or whatever, like, are not really comfortable with the devil and all that stuff. So it's like I feel like as representation goes, I don't know if I related to that choice of hers. Like I feel like she should have had more of a, resistance to that. But narratively, for the sake of the story, I'm interested to see where it goes. What were your takes on that ending?
Yeah, I have a really interesting take because I feel like Riri being at her age and having all the loss that she's experienced, it made that really enticing. Where all I have to do is do a little something for you. And you have to remember, Riri thinks she's smart. Every time someone says, "Why'd you do it?" She'll say, "Because I can, because I can." Like she has this like really sharp confidence about herself where she's like, I can do it. I can do it. I can just build the next thing, or I can just make the next thing, or I can just find the next code. And I feel like that at this age, mixed with all of that grief, makes somebody like Mephisto really enticing, where they're like, I'll give you what you want. All you got to do is, and when he says, she says, what does it cost? Parker and her both said that. He says, oh, you'll never miss it. Like those type of bargains feel like, yeah, okay, I can do this. I can manage this. And so for me, I feel like it makes sense, like you said, in the context of the story. But even for the representation of Black people, I think it actually expands representation because so many times when Black people are represented with spirituality, it is tends to be a Christian God or a God-like character. I like that there has been more expansion here. Like Mrs. Stanton and Zelma, they both practice the same Carmitage magic that Doctor Strange does, and they kind of and like Mrs. Stanton was trained at Carmitage, and so I
Yeah.
like that expansion of spirituality that now Riri and other people can kind of step into and see, yeah, there are like some black people that are into crystals. Like I think she gave Riri a crystal like in the first episode or something like
Hmm.
that, right?
Some black obsidian. Yeah.
There you go, right? And so it's like, I'd like that we have now this representation of not just the Christian God or the Baptist God in the Black community, but there's also this expansion of spirituality where sometimes people are into like incense and camertage and like, all of that magic. And that's part of their spiritual experience too. And so I
Yeah.
think it gave us both a really good representation of what it looks like to deal with grief and have to have these kind of Faustian bargains, but it also gave us another expansion of spirituality too.
I love that. Yeah, like we're gonna go into a little bit of overtime here because there's
Yes.
just so much to dig into with this show, which I love. But I just want to piggyback off of what you're saying because like the whole magic element, like I mean, I think it's very interesting on multiple levels. To get back to the spiritual level, like you're talking about with religion and everything, and how people have various, directions in life that they kind of or angles that they view it from. So like I want to mention like of course like Sinners was one of the biggest movies this year. I
Yeah.
loved it. I know you loved it. Like
Yeah.
everybody like it was really another great piece of work that kind of like let us examine things from many angles. Um, but I just want to particularly talk about with Zelma and Mrs. Stanton. First of all, can we say if we're talking about Black Girl Magic, can I just say praise Cree Summer. Like I love Cree
Yeah.
Summers. She's
Yeah.
like the second I heard her voice, I knew it was her. Like she has that voice because she's been doing voice acting for so long, like in
Yeah.
so many things that we grew up with. Like shout out to her. She was, in a sense, like the original Riri, so to speak, because if you
Yeah.
remember, she played Natasha Irons on Superman the Animated Series back in
I
the
love that.
90s,
I
who
love
was
that.
another character who ends up, being a young black girl in tech who builds her own suit, becomes a superhero, she becomes Steel. This didn't all happen in the cartoon, but she was voicing that character and it
Yeah.
led to all that and it kind of paved the way. So not to mention all the various other roles she's done over the years that like she's a
Oh,
legend, so
I'm gonna throw out one though that I really like. You remember she did number five from Number
yeah.
Four? Like she's done everything. You're not
She
wrong.
really has. Yeah. Like and to have her in this show was just pitch perfect. Like I love that. And then like and we talked about Zelma too. Like Zelma, I loved her introduction because we didn't get her till episode 4. So it was
Yeah.
like kind of like a up like an interesting new area for the show to dig into with the magic. Like we had the hood, but like it really leaned into the magical aspect, which I do have to mention because this is going to be something I'm going to mention later on for the other things we watched. We gotta talk a little bit about context and tropes because, like, I feel especially with representation of Black people in media, I always like to uh, look at it in context of history, look at it in the context of tropes that are familiar to some and perhaps unfamiliar to other. So, like, there's a big trope in media called the magical Negro trope.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, I think over time it's definitely taken on a more negative connotation. There was recently a movie called The American Society of Magical Negroes, I think that was the title, where that dug into that, and it was like the concept is that it's not about black people having magic, it's more about black people having the power to make white people comfortable. And that's a reason why people were not a big fan of the movie about the magical Negroes. Whereas I think this take on Zelma gave us more of what most black audiences want, which is characters whose magic is not tied to racial oppression or systems of racial oppression. It's more about a liberating power.
Yeah.
Like is that what you kind of took away from it?
It is, and I'll drop this name for you too. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas actually talks about the dark other and the dark fantastic, usually from the perspective of the Black female identity and fantasy, whereas the dark other is where we expect the Black female identity to come in and be this other monstrous thing that the white characters have to defeat and somehow get this catharsis about who they are. Whereas Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas says, what about we do the dark fantastic, where the Black female identity is not here for your voyeurism, for your gaze, for your salvation, even for your catharsis. They're here in fantasy to have full, authentic 5D lives that do not adhere to all the patriarchal, oppressive, racist things that they would have to deal with in the real world. They're in the fantasy world. They shouldn't have to deal with that. They should be full people. And so, yes, I love Riri for that. I love Sinners for that. I love Scandal and Shonda Rhimes for doing that with Scandal, where you got these characters like in Sinners. None of those characters were perfect, but they weren't there for our consumption. They were there, or our gaze. They were there to be full, realized characters and live this life. So is Riri. And again, I'm going to drop Shonda Rhimes and Scandal. So was Olivia Pope. If you take all of these characters and put them up against Dr. Elizabeth Thomas's Dark Fantastic, they all got to live in fantasy worlds as fully realized Black characters, responding, relating, and living according to how they would if they were fully human in the real world, but they're in a fantasy world. That to me is why I loved Ironheart so much.
I love that. Well said. Thank you
Yeah,
for bringing that. And like, I do want to hit on one more topic before we move on to
yeah.
another one. Um, we talked about it in bits, but Natalie and the AI of it all.
Ah,
Like, we talked about briefly on a previous DMV Comic Book Club, but I think that I won't belabor my points. I'll just say, I do appreciate this show for bringing a nuanced discussion to the topic. Like every character had different experiences and reactions to the reveal of Natalie, and like I said, like the performance of Lyric Ross as an actress was like great. Like I loved the relationship she had with Riri, whereas the concept of it I struggled with because like I am not comfortable with the role AI is quickly taking in present day society.
mhm.
Like even being on YouTube right now, I think there was an article recently that said, YouTube is training AI probably on this
Right.
conversation we're having right now. Like I
Oh
don't want to
man.
be reproduced after my death without my consent. And I appreciate that, her brother Xavier was angry at Riri over this. And Riri herself was like not comfortable with what she had created at first. And then the real crazy thing is just the ending where she said yes to bringing back Natalie, thinking she was bringing back her AI friend. And then she ends
Yeah.
up bringing her tangible friend back to life somehow. So that's the implication. Like who doesn't remember the AI part of it, but remembers the actual life that she had. So like, what do you think about all that? Like
Yeah, yeah, all of that. So I'll say this overall, I think we have not yet reached the precipice of AI and ethics at all. And that's because at this time, it is just chatbots, right? It isn't fully realized people, even the little like, AI things that happen at Coachella, those are like programmed computer programs that someone like coded specifically to have this person be there, right? I think what we really have to pay attention to and what I think Ironheart was really bringing up is how far are we willing to go with this AI? Like, are we willing to bring back loved ones against their will? There's a whole episode on Black Mirror this last season where it's called Joan is Awful, where they talk about the ramifications of using people's AI images across platforms and across universes. And so I am one of those proponents where I believe that AI used ethically and humanely can actually be beneficial to our world. But I think what ends up happening is the wrong people start to think about how can I use AI to scam people or to hurt people. And so I think we're always going to be in this ethical weirdness about it. But from what Riri did, I think there were real honest reactions to how she behaved. Even her mom seeing Natalie and thinking, "Oh, maybe I could bring Gary back," right? Like all those things, I think were addressed, and they were addressed in a way that each audience member can decide how do they feel, while still allowing each of those characters to have normal reactions to how would I feel if I had access to this type of AI.
yeah, like it's very deep topic that I'm glad that they brought the discussion and that the discussion is going to continue.
I agree.
Like I think, unfortunately, a lot of that discussion got sidetracked by a lot of other things going on with this show. Like for example, just racist backlash for one, but we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about that. Um, But I guess the last thought I would have on that is um, just the concern I see because right now we're seeing Meta and other companies talk about having AI influencers or AI bots that you're like the
Yeah.
chat bots you mentioned like infiltrating social media. You won't know who's real and who's not. Like, and some of it is appearing to be some have said a form of digital blackface. Like you've got people who are appearing to be black, not made by black people. There's a whole article. Investigative journalist Karen Attia like dug into this earlier this year. Like, I definitely think, like it's complicated, but I'm glad this show understood that it was complicated
Agreed.
and then they didn't take it lightly.
Agreed.
All right. So now, let's bring our friend Claude into the chat. I think he's been waiting here. Let's see. Hey, Claude, are you there?
Yes. Yes, I am. There it goes.
Awesome. Hey, Claude.
Howdy, hey.
All
Hi,
right.
Claude.
Hi, nice to meet you.
We've got Claude. He's been with us on a lot of different DMVCBN comic book clubs, and this is our very first DMVCBN TV movie club. So, glad you could join us today. You want to give it a quick intro, real quick?
Yeah, I am Claude, aka curlyinsaneguy on most social medias, and I am based out of Washington State.
Awesome. And so we just finished talking about Ironheart.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But let's give you a few minutes to talk about your take because we talked about it last time. We talked about like last month, but yeah.
Yeah,
Now
we
that
were
you've
only
seen the whole
halfway
show,
through at that point. Yeah, so I would say it continued with how last time I said each episode seemed like it was actually stronger than the previous. I think it managed to do that the whole way through. I think a part of that is the fact that it was a shorter series, but yeah, they really paced it well, in my opinion. And yeah, it was strong performances really carried it. Like, yeah, there were a few scenes, especially I can't remember if it was end of episode 4 or end of episode 5, but yeah, just acting their butts off, basically. It's really, really strong performances. So yeah, I think it was really good. I definitely enjoyed it. I want them to do more with the characters in the future, whether that's a season 2 or spinning it into something else, or maybe yeah, combining it with other magical elements of the MCU. But yeah, I think it was a really strong show.
awesome. Yeah, we were saying that like they definitely left it open for a season two.
They really did.
Um, One thing we didn't get to talk about before you jumped in, I'd like to bring it up now. Not necessarily because you're here, but just to get everyone's take on it. We didn't talk. I noticed something that I want to see what you guys think. Um, did Riri save anybody in this show, like as a superhero? Like, I feel like from my perspective, it's kind of debatable. Like she kind of saved um Ezekiel Stain, but she also was kind of the reason he was in trouble in the first place. And then she also kind of saved the crew by getting them like by letting them know that Hood was a killer. Um, and so they left. But other than that, she wasn't doing the traditional like I'm a superhero saving, you know, people from
Yeah,
burning
definitely a different
buildings
arc. Yeah, there wasn't a big moment of rescuing like a crowd of civilians or anything.
or a
I
cat from a tree.
yeah, I didn't really catch that actually. Now that you
She
mention it,
also, well, she did also save the heist that she kind of messed up because of her AI, but she ended up kind of saving it. I felt like her idea of saving actually, and now that you bring it up, has a different connotation because you remember when she was talking about having to protect her family and wanting to save everybody after that. I feel like she had more of like a I want to save my community and family as
Yeah.
opposed to I want to save the world, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I feel like she felt that way more so.
Definitely. I think that that was her ultimate goal in
Yeah,
building the iron suit and becoming someone who was capable to do that. But I feel like this series kind of sidetracked her a bit, was getting the funds to build the suit to,
yeah,
like, and then having to do it apart from being at MIT and all that.
yeah.
But yeah, we talked about a bit earlier, Claude, about how this show allowed Riri to be a complex character to have both flaws and virtues. And like, um, before we move on, I'll just let anyone, does anyone have any final thoughts about Ironheart?
I think that covers it. Yeah, she's had a lot of complexity, and yeah, I think a big problem that people have is that they can't let go of flaws, even though like the characters they love also have flaws. They're just yeah, pick on certain things, and they're like, oh, like her arc wasn't this traditional like big superhero one, so she doesn't count. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate that that's how they choose to view it. It does feel a lot like a first act like you're saying there's no big like her saving things. I could see that as a future one, and then it's one of those like, oh, but the means that of which she did that, now it's kind of called into question, so it would be a really fun thing to explore morally as well. I think it'll be a shame if they don't do more with the character from here, and the other characters introduced were all really interesting too. So I just want more. That's it.
I echo Claude. I just want more. Season two, all that good stuff. Watch if you're listening. Keep watching Ironheart. Put it on the background. Like watch it. Run up those numbers. That's what gets us more seasons of stuff that they want to know. People want to see it.
Yes, agreed. Disney, if you're listening to this, all three of us want more Ironheart. So that like we'll watch it guaranteed. Give
Yes.
us a season two. I'm sure many other people agree with us. So
Yeah.
thank you guys. Now let's get ready to move on and talk about Superman. Okay,
Let's
so
go.
Superman 2025. We have a new, brand new movie that is rebooting the entire DCU. We've got James Gunn and Peter Safran at the helm. This has been in development for quite a while, and now it's finally in theaters for people to see. Um, I want to know, what was your guys' experience? First of all, did everyone get to see this movie?
Yes. Seen
Yes,
it
I've seen it.
twice.
Good. It's okay, twice for you.
Yeah.
How about you, Claude?
I've seen it once.
Okay, I've seen it twice as well.
Ah, I'm
And
jealous because I definitely want to do repeat viewings. I just haven't
No
yet.
shit.
So,
I meant to ask you guys this question about Ironheart too. How many times did you watch it already?
I've seen the first three episodes three times and the whole series twice.
Okay.
wow. I've gone through it once. I don't end up with a lot of time to watch series, so unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, like I also watched that twice as well. And I liked your idea, Dr. Samudio, about just putting it on the background, just letting
Yeah.
it boost the numbers because it's a really good watch. But back to Superman. Yeah. Uh, Tell us about your experience, like leading up to the movie, at the movie, your thoughts. Like you can. This is spoilers.
Yeah.
So anyone who doesn't want spoilers might be a good time to dip out. We're gonna go full spoilers here.
All right. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna tell you why. I am a lifelong Batman fan. Lifelong. I think the only iteration that's probably at the bottom here is probably the Snyderverse Batman, but it's still a Batman part of my pantheon. And so I came into it sort of liking the Henry one, not because of the aesthetic, but I just think Henry was cute and I thought he was a good Superman in that way. Kind of liking the Christopher Reeve one. I actually enjoyed the old Superman, The Adventures of Superman that came on after Batman the animated series. So Superman
Yeah,
animated series, I really enjoyed that version of him,
I love it too.
right? And so I came into it having kind of like more of like, I'm a Batman fan. Let's see if I'm ever going to be a Superman fan. And I came out feeling this way. I came out feeling like for once, I think you all have a fully realized Superman. He's not just the good guy. He's not just the evil guy who snaps someone's neck. He's kind of this fully realized man who gets to be, like he said, a human at the end of it. We know he's Kryptonian. We know he's not like human, but he kind of got to be a full three-dimensional person in this movie. And so for me, I left feeling like, you know what? For the first time, I think in my fandom of having a Batman and always having a good Batman, I feel like James Gunn has finally given us a good Superman that will actually be part of a really good Justice League, part of a really good Batman dynamic duo if they ever do that. Like, I feel like that's actually going to be a good Superman. So that's how I left feeling. I have other feelings about other characters, but overall, I came in as a staunch Batman fan. I left feeling like, you know what? This Superman might actually work. I'm kind of ready to see what else he does.
Awesome, love that. All right, Claude, tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so as far as my Superman fandom goes, I was never like the most into the character, but I did like him in the animated Justice League was probably
Yeah.
my main thing, and then the animated Superman series as well. But that was like my main view of how he would act and everything. And then recently the My Adventures with Superman was is a really fun take in my opinion. And yeah, I was excited about this movie. It was like my most anticipated comic book movie of the year, and it lived up to it for me. I really love how David Cornsweet like portrayed the character, and as you were saying, the like a fully realized character. So they kind of played that up by having him like fall sometimes, like it's not this untouchable person, but also like he could lose his temper a little. It's not a one note performance where it's like, oh, it's just more intense of a one set emotion. Like he had range. And yeah, I think that really helps make him not just like this cardboard cutout of a hero. You get to see like aspects of him. And yeah, being able to take a closer look is interesting. So yeah, really, really good stuff.
Awesome, awesome. All right, well, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my experience with it. So yeah, similar to you guys, this is not my first run around with Superman. Like going back to I also was a fan of the cartoons back in the day, Superman the animated series, Justice League, all that DCAU stuff. But like I think that's honestly that might be my one of my core interpretations of Superman. Whereas I also have been reading comic books, lots of Superman comic books. Um, I love Superman. I'm a fan. Um, that said, going into this film, I definitely had a number of reservations. Like I've always kind of had mixed feelings on James Gunn, going back to like Scooby-Doo, or like the Peacemaker, Suicide Squad stuff, like um, or even the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. Like I I don't want to say I dislike any of that, but I also can't say it's like my favorite either. Um, but I do think that, you know, James Gunn, I will have to give him credit because I do think he put his best foot forward. I think he leaned into the comic books and what makes Superman special and what fans wanted to see. Um, it's a tough job because I can only imagine it's a very tough job because uh, you can't please everyone all the time, and so everyone has their own idea of what Superman is or how he should be, and and I've seen over years how people, you know, complain about everything. Like in the 2006, people complained that Brandon Routh's Superman was too weak, and they complained that his briefs were too short and he looked gay. That's what people were saying. He looked gay, and they called him gay because the director was gay, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the point is, people didn't like that, and so then the Zack Snyder Superman came along. It was a little bit more serious, more grim. Um, some people like it, some people hate it. Like I appreciate it for what it was, but it's just funny how that was a response to the previous Superman because now this Superman was considered too powerful. Like he was tearing down the whole city. Uh, you know, he even took a life, and so, but it was a villain. But it was a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. But the point is, so now it comes to 2025 where we have a Superman that is, like you said, like you both said, he's very human. He's very relatable. I appreciate that James Gunn was like, this is the main thing I want to focus on. Like, because from the opening scene all the way throughout the entire movie, I felt like that was the biggest message. Superman, even though he's an alien, even though he has these amazing superpowers, he's a human. He can bleed. Like it instantly answers that question from Batman versus Superman. Like, do you bleed? James Gunn lets you know right up front. Yes, he can bleed. He can lose. He's not perfect. And then you have the whole interview scene. It's like 12 minutes, and you get to see, his thoughts on things. And you might agree, some you might not agree. Like he's got his own perspective on things. Lois Lane has a different perspective on things. I kind of lean towards Lois Lane as far as who's right, but that's just me. But but also Superman has, of course, he's a very righteous character. Um, there's a lot that I'd love to dig into this. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I will just kind of sum up my point and say that, you know, I enjoyed the film, and uh, I I appreciated the humanity of the characters.
Agreed.
Um, um, Let me ask you guys a question. Do you have any favorite characters or scenes that you want to mention?
Ooh.
I do.
Go for it.
Um, so one of the characters that I didn't think I was gonna like, but I know I like him a lot in like the cartoons and stuff when he shows up is Metamorpho. I love that character so much. Like the minute he shows up, the minute he's like, spoiler alert, like fighting back with Superman, I'm like, shut up, be quiet, like don't get us in trouble. To all the way to the end when he's like, man, I want to be a part of the Justice Gang. You guys are cool. Like his whole wholesomeness is like exactly what I expect in a Superman comic book movie. Like you expect these weird characters to kind of do that. And when you were talking earlier about James Gunn, that's what he does well. He takes these weird characters and he really humanizes them. Like he made Groot the most human thing in all of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I know Groot, like he's my homie, you know? And
Yeah,
I love that he can do that. I think sometimes, and I agree with, I think with the humans, sometimes he has a hard time because some of his sensibilities tend to be a little, I don't know the word for it, but they kind of tend to be a little bro sometimes. It kind of feels like that with the humans, but with the weirdos and the aliens and like the non-humans, he's got this human quality that he gives them. And I don't know if that's on purpose, if he's trying to like juxtapose the monsters are better than the humans, but I loved Metamorpho. I absolutely loved Hawk Girl as well. She was a character that I loved in Justice League, the cartoon. And I know they're doing a different story than that one, but still, I like her as a character. And then finally, I'm gonna say, oh, and I liked her scene where she screamed, like when she was coming down the hall. It was like,
yeah,
I loved it. I was like, this is so
that
cool,
was cool.
right? And then lastly, one of my characters that I loved, and I don't often like his character because he's not often characterized well enough for me to like him, but I really liked Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor. I felt like he was one of my favorite versions of Lex, even in the cartoons, because I felt like he really got Lex's like, I'm better than all these other greats. And I don't even want to be in the name of like Socrates and all these people. I'm better than them. And I'm like, dude, you're exactly what I think Lex should be. That scene where like he comes in, it's like, where's my dog? And like knocks the table over and he tells his girl to like make sure you get this, like make sure you get him yelling at me. That smugness. It's exactly why I like Lex Luthor. And I thought Nicholas Holt really nailed it. So those were the people I like. Metamorpho, Hawk Girl, and Lex. Those are like the people that really stood out for me.
Can I just piggyback off that real quick and say, like,
Yeah.
that scene where Lex is like freaking out mad, and then he knocks the pencils off the desk on the floor, and
Yes.
then tells his subordinates to pick it up,
Yeah.
and then they do, and then he knocks it back down again. Like that was so, it was funny and terrible at the same time, and just like perfect for like showing how petty billionaires can be, and just like it was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Claude. It's
I would say like standout scenes, definitely. The heart to heart between Pa Kent and
Oh,
Clark.
oh yeah,
Like without even like they weren't covering anything like super sad or anything, but just like him trying to express himself. I don't know why, but like just the very like a real person talking to someone like
Mm,
and trying their best to be like, I like he loves him so much and he's like I'm
yeah,
trying to inspire you to like be who I know you already are. It just like it got me
yeah.
yeah,
that scene made me emotional and I was like it's and even just whenever they were like comforting him and he was like recovering in bed I was just like it's just such a sweet moment
yeah,
and then yeah it's and also I would echo the Lex being just spot on. Yeah, just the level of like power trip that he
Yeah.
had. And then Mr. Terrific
yeah.
was scene stealer every time. Just the humor of like how he straight faced said some things or just like his reactions. I
Yes,
think,
deadpan delivery.
yeah, the deadpan is just really good stuff. And I yeah, his I'm Mr. Terrific. Like
Yeah,
it's I
yeah.
like that line coming from him versus from Batman. But yeah. Um
No, yeah, that was all great stuff. And like I had to piggyback off that because like yeah, I definitely teared up a bit with the Pa Kent Clark scene. Like I'm a sucker for that. Like I teared up in Blue Beetle, like with the over the father scenes. Like my father passed away a few years ago, so like I'm always very sensitive now to like moments between a father and a son, and like so that yeah, I definitely appreciated that. Again, we're pointing towards the humanity of the character, like, and this movie specifically makes a point to say that um, we learn that the full message from Clark's biological parents was one that he hadn't heard and didn't really want to hear because they wanted him to be more of a conqueror and a ruler, and that's inconsistent with how he was raised by his human adoptive parents. So this movie really leaned into the fact that his adoptive parents give him his true strength of character, um, which some fans may love, some fans may hate. Um, it does have precedence in the comics and the other shows and adaptations, so it's kind of like I'm not that um, unfamiliar with the idea, so I don't really have strong feelings either way. But it's just an interesting point to focus on, I think, in this film. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I think it's made for some pretty interesting discourse, definitely. I was seeing some takes that they were like, well, they were probably thinking of humanity like back when it was less advanced. So they were saying like, oh yeah, it was kind of good that they sent him to take over. And I'm like, no, like it's still bad. Like it's definitely made for some interesting conversation and seeing how people view those they think are less advanced than them, which was not a conversation I was expecting people to have coming out of it. Like clearly what the House of L sent him to do was not a good thing. And yeah, I think it didn't bother me. I know some people were upset that they're like, oh, I don't like Jor-El and his mother being like bad, but I'm like, it's really they're in the past. Like it's just further emphasizing the nurture versus nature thing, and yeah, I think it was fine. It was yeah, interesting to see like Clark shaken as much as he was with finding it out, like because yeah, he's like, oh, I guess I was destined to do the wrong thing, but the fact that yeah, he was like, what you wanted to fill in the message with, like how you interpreted it, that tells you who you are, not like whatever they were trying to get you to do. So I didn't have a problem with that plot line at all. It was in a sea of plot lines. That's another thing about this movie. They put a lot of just concepts in there. They're like, oh, like pocket universes, clones, like they just really threw everything in there. And
They
I
did,
I
yeah.
hear yeah people saying that like it feels like you're stepping into like season 3 of a show with how much stuff is in there. But to me it's picking up a comic off the shelf and you might not have read the previous one, but you get up to speed pretty quickly. And yeah, I think in that way it really captured the feel of reading comic books, and I was all
Yeah,
about it. I don't know if general audiences that aren't like in the same kind of realm would feel the same way, but I think it's really cool to have a movie that acts that way.
Yeah.
agreed. Dr. Smudio, do you have any more thoughts about it?
Yeah, no, I actually agree a lot with what Claude was saying. Like, I actually really liked that second half of the message because it does something that I think a lot of other Superman stories don't do, which is it actually looks at the ideology of Krypton when it was going to blow up. This is what these people thought. These people thought they were either better or good, and that's unfortunately why Krypton ended up falling. It wasn't just because it was an environmental thing, it was because all the ideologies weren't paying attention to each other. And in that ensuing battle, here we are. We don't have a plan anymore. We don't have it anymore. And so I think and I love that his parents were like, yeah, be a great person, be a great person. But since we're losing our battle, why don't you take our ideology somewhere else and try to see if you can get it off the ground elsewhere? Like, they sound like normal parents to me. They sound like normal parents who have their own ideologies and want to make sure that you uphold all of these ideologies because we did this and we sacrificed for you. To me, they actually sounded like exactly what parents do. And then I love that nature versus nurture debate because when people get adopted, that's what ends up happening, right? You do have your original culture and your original people, but then whoever adopts you, they're going to infuse their identity and who they are in you as well. And I love what Podkent said. Podkent literally said, listen, I don't know what to do. I did my best. Now you just get to go out and make your own dumb decisions by yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the essence of being a human, right? And so they raised their Kryptonian son like a human, whereas I felt like Jor-El and his mom were trying to raise him like a Kryptonian. And so there was that difference there that whole message really showed us that, yeah, if he had stayed on Krypton, he probably would have been raised to be this type of guy. But because he came here and was raised by mom and pa Kent, they raised him to be kind of a human and kind of like a real country homeboy human, like you were saying when he was at his house. He had his Mighty Crabjoy's pictures up still, and like he was still like this down home boy kind of. That's what they raised him to be, and that's not, I don't think, what he would have been raised to be on Krypton at all. I think he would have been raised to be like what they were saying in the message.
Ooh, can I add on to that? Because like when you mentioned the Mighty Crabjoys and like and all that, like I was somebody online mentioned that that scene where Lois brings him home to his parents and she sees his room, that's when we start to see her really falling in love with him to the point where she
Oh,
can reciprocate him saying "I love you" because like they had their little fight earlier. She was not. She was always saying like she wasn't sure if their relationship was going to work, and like honestly, one of my favorite aspects of Superman is the romance. Like I'm a sucker for it. Like Smallville did it great. The animated series, even though it was made for kids, they snuck in enough that it was still kind of
yeah.
interesting and rich. And like the best Superman stories, really, I think show a great relationship between him and Lois Lane. Props to Rachel Brosnahan as well. I think we've already praised David Corn Sweat. He did a great job. I mean, I've said before, ever since I saw Hollywood, David Corn Sweat, I knew he would be a great Superman. But Rachel Brosnahan was equally great as Lois Lane. We mentioned Lex Luthor was great. Um, but I guess I just wanted to say, like that romantic element, it was there in spades, which was necessary and great. And because you had some extended makeout sessions, which I don't know
Yes.
how that worked for the kids in the audience, but for the adults, it's like it's something that a lot of movies have been lacking lately. Not that like movies have been trending away from romance, or at least family-friendly movies, I would say. But also it is a heteronormative cisgendered straight white people relationship, so it's like not that subversive or revolutionary, but
I think that's where James Gunn's sensibilities show up. Like, as great and innovative and fresh as James is also a cishet white man, and these are the stories that he grew up with. He grew up idolizing and really enjoying Superman. And so I think what we really got, and I don't feel that there's anything wrong with that, because whether he's Kryptonian or not, I think, you know, Superman has always kind of been the image of white man, the cishet white man. I know that, David is Jewish, so I love that that's another element there. But what I think is really interesting is that James Gunn's sensibilities, a lot of times when he's doing humans, tends to come from that cishet white male kind of identity. And so
yeah.
while he does that well, I think he doesn't always open up space for other people to exist in that era, if that makes sense.
If I can speak to that point specifically, and I agree with you, I just want to add some more context to it because I've been, trying to keep an open mind here, and I've been researching and learning new things about this film. And so again, I want to give credit where credit is due because, like, I think James Gunn made some intentional choices to include and represent diversity in this movie. Like, we
Yes,
got Mr. Terrific, we got Hawk Girl, we got an entire plot line revolving around a foreign country that was being invaded and the
agreed,
civilians were being
agreed.
attacked, and there's an allegory there about what's going on in the real world, with Israel and Gaza and Palestine, and there's a lot we could dig into there, but in the interest of time I just want to mention how like I appreciate that some thought went into this film, and like there's one actor who portrays one of the Jaran poor people who were being attacked. He said, "My whole career, I've only gotten the opportunity to play terrorists. Like once in a while, I get to play a decent person, and this was a chance where I got to play, a good person." And he was very
Oh, I
proud of
love
that. And
I
so
love
I think we can all give props all around for like you know giving people these opportunities, but I do have to say, as a black nerd, someone who's been in this for a long time, I do just have to agree, like continue to point out that as much as I support diversity, equity, and inclusion. I feel like we got diversity and inclusion. I don't know if we had a lot of equity with this film,
Mm,
and when you look at the context of it, it's really kind of disappointing for me personally because I'm like, we saw some news reports about how like this. James Gunn and David Zaslav, they were like, no, the Black Superman movie written by Ta-Nehisi Coates and it was going to be directed by J.J. Abrams, that was canceled. Okay,
Yeah.
like so that's disappointing. Like there was literally news in like this past week about how the Trump administration is making things harder for black farmers. Like I feel like a movie like that could have shown the value and the history of black farmers in America. But anyway, that's a tangent. But I guess another point I'd like to bring up is the fact that, for a long time, as much as DC Comics in particular, and most comic books have tried to include black people, I feel like at the same time, they've also tokenized black people. Like for a long time, there's only like one black person who can be on the team at a time. You've got first it was Black Vulcan or Mr. Well, in this case it's Mr. Terrific. And sometimes it's been Cyborg, or sometimes it's like sometimes they make Martian Manhunter black, and or like you mentioned Adventures of Superman, Claude, like the cartoon. Like I appreciate that tried to be more diverse. You've got a black Jimmy Olsen, you've got an Asian Lois Lane, but then what does it mean when they then take back those race
Yes.
swaps? Like, how is it progressive if we're like undoing it in the next chance we get for the big budget film? Like, I don't know. I feel like there are these a lot of conversations that we're not having that we need to have as far as like what is what is true DEI and why does it matter? Like it definitely matters. So we gotta figure out how we can continue to move in the right direction as far as like, having more characters, more representation, and not relying on the same old tropes. Because it can be harmful. Like I feel like there's a lot that I took notes on that I'm not going to really go into right now, but yeah, if you guys have any other thoughts, I'll give you the floor.
I'll just comment on James Gunn and how he directs things usually. Like he definitely, I think being reined in by the fact that it was a PG-13 helped a lot because of the differences between how he portrayed people in this versus Suicide Squad or the Suicide Squad. When he has rated R, he really leans into like the bro humor and like very
Yes.
irreverent, but like to yeah, I really like the bro humor term. I'm like, I'm gonna use that now. That's good stuff. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think not being able to lean into kind of his worse, I would say, aspects as a director, like he couldn't have the sort of like vulgarity as much in a PG-13. You still got some hints at like his style and like he likes silly moments to break things up sometimes. He likes, crass stuff is how I'll put it. He definitely
Yeah.
enjoys that himself. I think he injected less of that into this, and I think that's really good. I think he needs to be reined in a little sometimes so that his strengths, like humanizing characters really well, comes through more. So I think this was really good for him. I do want to see how it carries through. I know he said other DC projects would have their own specific vibes, and I think that works. But yeah, I think if it doesn't devolve quite to where the Suicide Squad was, then I would prefer that. And yeah, that's really it. It's some of the strong James Gunn isms that happen in it would be Mr. Terrific's scene, which was his action scene, which is very reminiscent of Yondu with the arrow. Like it's the same vibe. It's,
But it was really cool
lots of
though.
things shooting right. It was cool. Yeah, I was like, it's like if it's gonna be a greatest hits thing, that's a good one to kind of have as a signature. Is just an action scene with a lot of style, with great music, and yeah. So I think it was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the movie again, for sure.
Any other thoughts, Dr. Smudio?
Yeah, I love this discussion, by the way. This is like perfect discussion for me. Please have me on anytime for any of this nerd stuff. But
You're welcome anytime for sure.
yeah. But what I really appreciated, I think, about this Superman, and I'll give James Gunn his props where they're due as well, is that James Gunn really does like telling these fantastical stories and having a lot of fun here. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 5 is actually one of my top five favorite Volume
Only
3.
three.
Volume 3 is one of my top five favorite MCU films. And it's because of that heart that he infuses in Rocket Raccoon, a CGI character that I spend the whole movie worrying about. And so I think he has this heart and this fun that actually, Claude, you nailed it. when he gets reined in a little bit, when he doesn't get a chance to have that rated R crassness or vulgarity or bro humor, you find that the heart shines more. And that's what I found happened in Superman, like his heart
Yeah.
around humanity, his heart around helping others, his heart around animals, even. Like the dog was a little gimmicky for me sometimes, but he was great. Like he was a
It was
dog.
so cute. Yeah.
And so it's like I think that when he's given the right kind of parameters and he has that nice structure, he can do the heart. But I'm really scared when he doesn't have that, because then it's all like the Peacemaker stuff can be overwhelming sometimes. Like some of that stuff is like, all right, I get it. Yikes. I'm not excited. I'll say this, I'm not that excited for Toxic Avenger because I know exactly what that is, and that's going to be rated R. And I'm like, oh boy, John sensibilities on that. I'm going to have to wait for that on streaming probably.
Hmm. Hmm.
But my final thought is I think he did a great Superman. I also think he started out his franchise really well. And so I'm actually excited to see what's coming next. I'm excited for Supergirl, even though she was in for half a second. I liked her. I liked her blowing
Yeah.
up for
That
half a
was a nice
second and blow
surprise. I didn't
out.
expect to see her. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to see her full movie. Cool. Let's see
Hmm.
what she does. Like I'm excited to see what he's about to do, is what I think this movie did really well. I want to see the rest of his DCU.
Agreed. I do want to piggyback off what you both said about them reining in James Gunn's, lower impulses. Like, I do feel like Superman in general does kind of like bring out the better angels of a lot of, creatives. Like Grant Morrison, for example. Like Grant Morrison went from writing a comic book called The Filth, and then later on wrote some of the best Superman comic books ever. And like when you listen to interviews that Grant Morrison did, they almost always sound like Superman's number one prophet, like it's a religion, like the religion of Superman. Like it's there's a lot that uh people love Superman and some people worship Superman and almost too much. Like at the theater I saw a promo uh where not promo but there was a pre-show where they kind of had a lot of just various Superman ephemera, and like there was this one interview. There was a guy from Thailand who, he big fan of Superman. He had some Superman cosplay. He would go and bring the kids some hope and entertainment, and then, but but then I got a little concerned because he was like, I am lightening my skin to look more like Superman. I'm having plastic surgery to look more like Superman. I'm gonna have a surgery to make myself taller to be more like Superman. And I don't know if that's the message that we really want to spread. That like I don't think the Eurocentric feet beauty standards of Superman is what we need to aspire towards, because like when you look at the history of Superman, even his name, like Superman, kind of goes back to Nietzsche's the Übermensch, like which a concept which has been arguably misinterpreted, but that's what led a lot of Nazi ideology. Like I feel like it's definitely a winding road of like what Superman represents. Like we know he ultimately represents hope and optimism, and I want to hold space for that. I want to respect, the positive vibes that this movie brought to a lot of people, but I also want us to be aware and informed of, some of the shadow side of things as well. Like there's a lot that I could get into, but I'll just say this. Where is Superman in the real world? And everyone might have their own answer for this. It's kind of a rhetorical question. But the sad thing that I see is like, where is Lex Luthor in the real world? We see lots of examples of Lex Luthor. We've got the bald guy Jeff Bezos with his billionaires. Like we've got Elon Musk. We've got a whole bunch of people who you know are very prominently acting like Lex Luthor, and it doesn't seem like we have as many people acting like uh, Superman. But maybe that'll turn around. Maybe there are some examples that we're thinking of, like I would say maybe a Mr. Rogers type of person, or like like we need more
Oh,
positive
Miss
examples.
Rachel, like Miss
Miss
Rachel.
Rachel, thank you. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
absolutely. So like we want to kind of like highlight the people in the real world who are showing examples of kindness and trying to turn things around, but sometimes it definitely seems like this world is far from the one that we see in the movies. We
Oh.
talked a little bit about AI earlier. I just have to mention we no one's talking about Superman's robots. Like, the robots were a throwback. It was kind of like a reference to the old Fleischer cartoons. They had a cartoon where those robots with the numbers on their chests were like the enemy, and he fought them and won. But also, there's other stories where Superman has robots. Usually, they look like him. It's kind of like a very comic booky thing. But in this movie, they didn't look like him, but they were kind of humanized in a way. Like at the very end, one of them's like, "Can you call me Gary?" He's like, "Sure." So like on the one hand, it's cute and funny and it's interesting, but on the other hand, again, I'm very cautious about this trend of humanizing AI, and I feel like this movie did not dig into that in the same way, say Ironheart did. But I'll just kind of leave that
Yeah, I was
there.
about to say I hadn't even considered that. And then if you think of like the data that those were trained on, if they're from Krypton and we know how Kryptonians feel, that's interesting.
Yeah, yep,
To have those out and about. But yeah.
yep. So
I hadn't really considered it though. Yeah,
like
they don't harp on it for too long, but yeah.
listen, I've got a lot of thoughts that I feel like are not being part of the main discourse right now, but in the interest of time, I think it's probably best to move on because it's almost time up and we got to talk about Fantastic Four. so,
Oh, I was about to say I
so,
have one recommendation
sure.
before we move on past Superman, since you had brought up Grant Morrison, the book that they wrote called Super Gods. It's like
Yes.
the whole history of Superman, but also like Grant Morrison's exposure and like basically the different eras of Superman and why they are the way they are and like really contextualizes it. I think it's really interesting for anyone who wants to learn the history, but also like kind of the why of things. And that's my really quick, short recommendation for Super Gods.
Yeah, that's a great book. Like it's nonfiction. It's more about like Grant Morrison's experience being one of the most celebrated comic book writers and how they got to that point and like just their perspective on superheroes. And again, that's where I was kind of getting some of that profit of superheroes like they kind of talk about superheroes like they are gods, they are modern mythology that's what Grant Morrison's kind of perspective is on that. Um, Dr. Samudi, did you have something to add?
No, you all said a great thing about AI, and I'll just add this. I think one of the things that, especially me being in the mental health space, I really think we do need to start talking about AI. So if you ever want to have that discussion, we can definitely have a whole podcast about like AI and how it's either being kind of, represented in a way and how we can really start talking about it because AI is becoming a part of our life, and I think we're going to have to start talking about it.
Yeah.
People are gonna want to use it.
Yeah, I think AI and I think capitalism and colonialism are things that like have to be at the forefront of like every conversation these days because they're impacting our world in such devastating ways, I think. But not to get too not to bring things down too much. Well, let's talk about a disaster movie called Fantastic Four, where the world's about to end. Uh, you guys both get to see Fantastic Four?
Yes.
So this one I did not get to see. So I
Okay.
may, when it comes to spoilers, if we want to do like a
Let,
non-spoiler thing,
let's try to
that's
do
cool. And then I'll
non-spoilers
try
for a
to,
bit.
yeah, I was about to say I can jump out at the end for the spoiler talk. I'm totally fine with
Or I have
that.
a better idea. Let's do a brief like discussion about it with no spoilers and then come back and talk about it afterwards after Claude has seen it.
Okay. I mean, I do hope to have more and more of these movie clubs, TV movie clubs. So I'm cool with that. Because there's still so much left to discuss for sure. Dr. Smudio, would you like to go first? Tell us your experience and take on your
Yes.
watching Fantastic Four first steps.
Yes, yes, yes. So I will start this off by saying I am one of those millennials who had the Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, Ewan Grufford. What's I should say his last name wrong. Sorry, but I'm one of those people who had that whole franchise. And for what it was at the time, it's what they offered us, right? It was around the same time as like the X-Men and the Spider-Man ones, and I enjoyed the first one. The second one was fine enough. I have other ideas on it, but I remember coming into this thinking, you know what? I don't have the full comic knowledge of Fantastic Four. I just have the movies, really, and a few instances of cartoons and things like that. And so I came into this one fully excited to see what the MCU was going to do with their interpretation of the Fantastic Four. And I am thoroughly impressed, so excited to see them come back. I think that everything that I have heard about them in the comics and everything that I know, their characterizations were really well done. I think the actors that they cast really knew what they were doing and really knew who they were bringing forth. And so the story worked well. I believed everybody. I thought Sue was a standout, where in other previous instances, she really isn't always a standout, but I thought she really was here. I thought they did a great job with Johnny and not making him kind of the guy that he always is, but really showing his heart and his authenticity. I thought that they did, I thought the CGI had its moments, but I also felt like, well, this is part of a franchise and a universe that we've never seen before. And so I thought it really helped me to realize that his stretching is going to feel a little odd to me because I've never actually seen really well done stretching before, right? So I really enjoyed it. Overall, I thought that the villain arc was good. I thought that Silver Surfer was so cool. There's this really cool thing where, Johnny's trying to get to know her and understand her. And I thought that was a really cool moment. I thought Galactus was beautiful. And I mean that in a really nice way. He was beautiful to look at. I would look
Yeah.
at Galactus.
Like,
And that's so
did you?
sad to say, but he was
No,
beautiful.
yeah. Did you see what Iman Vellani said? Like, she did a review on Letterboxd, like,
Letterbox. Yeah.
yeah, from 2020. She was like, "Where's my big cloud guy at?" Like I think it was like one sentence reviews, and then
Yeah.
and so now she came back 5 years later. She's like, "Here he is! Thank goodness! Like what we finally been waiting for." Like she's a real one, and I'm so glad that she's Ms. Marvel. And but anyway, if you had any more thoughts, please continue.
Yeah. No, that was I was wrapping up with I really enjoyed him. And when I say beautiful, they gave him depth. That's one thing that I think if Marvel has taken any critiques, it's in giving their villains a little bit more depth. And that's something that I love seeing in Galactus. I loved his motivations. I thought he was a really beautiful character, visually stunning, but then also like a beautiful character. Like I liked him. And that's so weird, but I really liked what his motivations were. I liked how he tried to, get his needs met. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it worked.
I gotta add, like, I just saw a little bit of behind the scenes. Apparently, a lot of that was practical. Like, a lot of Galactus stuff was filmed in miniature. A lot of it was like he actually wore a suit. Like, it wasn't entirely CGI the way
Nice.
people would expect a lot of Marvel stuff to be. And same with the Thing. There were some practical things. Suits. They had a thing walking around New York City the other day just for
Nice.
promotion. It's kind of interesting. So, like, I gotta agree. Like, this is another great movie. Like. I wasn't expecting it because, like, you know, having been off the high of like Ironheart and Superman, like all this other stuff, I literally had to like just buy my Fantastic Four ticket and be like, okay, like I'm not in the mood to see a movie right now, but let me just go watch it and maybe I'll have a good time. And I did end up like getting sucked in and loving it because um like I think we need movies like that that can kind of like I think Matt Shackman, the director, said he wanted it to be optimistic. He wanted it to be some escapism for people. Um, like it is. I think they put everything that a Fantastic Four fan would want into this film, almost just about because um because we like I said we've had these previous incarnations of the Fantastic Four. None of them were like exceedingly successful. But I do look back fondly on the first two movies. And another great thing that this movie did was it gave the original 1994. There was an unreleased Fantastic Four movie by Roger Corman, and those actors really got shafted. Like they didn't know the movie was not going to be released, but they filmed the entire thing. And so there is like the footage is you can see the footage out there on the internet or wherever, but um, it was never released. So this movie brought those actors back and gave them bit roles, cameos. And they were able to go to the premiere and everything. So I feel like this movie, I feel like this and Superman, they're trying to like do some good karma things as far as like just right wrongs of the past and like we got Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Like a lot of people have commented on the fact that we're getting a softer side of Reed Richards. We're getting a more likable presentation of Reed Richards than we might see from the comics. Um, I do think that Johan Grufford's take on Reed was also more likable than the comics. Um,
Mhm.
but I, it's just very interesting. Like and they still managed to like let you know that Reed he's still a flawed person. He's
Yes.
still not perfect. Like he has a darkness within him, like most people do. Um, and even Sue Storm's also like she can't wait to like bring Malice into the conversation. So like she's ready for the sequel. She's like, I need to go cheat with Namor. I need to turn into
Exactly.
Malice. Like she's ready to go. It's like she's been doing her homework as far as
Yeah.
what Sue's storylines are. But yeah, I think overall, like if you were disappointed after seeing the Silver Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer because all we got was Cloud Galactus, this movie rights that wrong. It gives you everything you could have wanted out of a Fantastic Four versus Galactus film. And Galactus isn't even like the only antagonist here. They have lots and lots of little Easter eggs for fans of the comics. They mention a lot of other foes that the Fantastic Four face. Like they do briefly kind of show their origin, but they don't dwell on it. They really get into the story, and like they have some really amazing set pieces, like or action pieces that, or like even the familial drama is like such a central theme, like from start to
Yeah.
finish. Like the they really hone in on the fact that this is about family,
Yeah.
and I love that. Like it real like these are things that really make the Fantastic Four. And then now I think that Vanessa Kirby is actually pregnant.
She is.
So it's like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting
I'll
to
say this
see.
too. I like what you're saying too about this world that they've created for the Fantastic Four too, because from what I can understand, um, they are really like the main superheroes, you know? And so like as they are learning who they are and being the family that they are, I think it's interesting to see how they're going to jump into all the other stuff. And I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but I think what this movie did for me is it gave me the same excitement that kind of like the end credit scene of Iron Man did and the end credit scene of, or no, and the whole Avengers did, where I'm like, oh, I want to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen next. It's not that I haven't felt that way, but I felt like the Infinity Saga, once it got started, you kind of understood where it was going. I feel like the aftermath of the Infinity Saga, I felt like, yeah, everyone's grieving, everyone's having trauma. So I get that. And now I feel like we're moving back into that big event, right? And we're about to get into Doomsday. And I felt like this was a great movie to say, okay, you remember how it felt when you were about to move into Infinity War and this is about to happen? We're getting into that gear up, kind of that launching point again. And that's what this felt like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? And after the Thunderbolt scene, I'm like, right, they showed up at the end of Thunderbolts. Okay, how does that connect? And like I'm in my Marvel theories era again, trying to figure out how it's all going to connect. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Like I really love that this film, like they've tried to let people know you can come into this cold. It's not you don't have to watch any other previous Marvel films to watch this film. But if you do, you do get that kind of context where you can kind of see where it fits in the multiverse and like where what it might lead to. But this film is fairly self-contained, and I have to give it
Yeah,
props for that. Um, and like I really like I think it's multiversal in the best way in the sense that like it exists in the multiverse, but it doesn't cross over with the other multiverse things like we've had a lot of films do recently. So it's not like the same old, same old. This is like about the Fantastic Four, and it's just very focused. I think the fact that they're in their own multiversal
yeah,
universe really lets this film just kind of dig deep about into like the whole like the set production, the costuming, the story, like everything was very focused, and I really appreciated that.
yeah.
Um,
And I have to give props to Matt Shankman for that too, because he came off of WandaVision with all those period pieces and all that
mhm,
period kind of ideology. And I felt
mhm.
he brought those sensibilities here. Like when they were doing the I Love Lucy era in WandaVision, I was in love with that. I was so overwhelmed when people were like, what's happening here? I don't understand this. And I'm like, I do. I completely understand it. And so I got to see some of that same sensibilities here, where he brought that like aesthetic of being like on a sitcom almost. Like they were on that TV show you saw from the trailers, but it felt like they were on a sitcom. It felt like we're meeting a great family on a weekly night sitcom. It had that aesthetic to it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we are sadly coming towards the end of our time here. Maybe we might be able to go like a few minutes just because I do want to just um have time for final thoughts. So any final thoughts about Fantastic Four?
I'm excited about it. I really think that this is a great era that we're about to get into. And I think this is one of those movies that if you are like, I've been kind of hemming and hawing on the MCU, this might be a good time to jump in. Start with Fantastic Four and move backwards and forwards from there.
Agreed. Claude, you excited?
Yeah, hearing from you two and how much you liked it, like this was one that I was kind of feeling like you were saying, Freddie, where it's like, oh, I just watched some stuff that I was really excited about. Now I'm like a little less excited about this going into it. But if it's as y'all are saying, like it seems like it's really nailing everything that it needs to, the family dynamic and everything like that. I'm gonna try to see it this week, hopefully.
All right, good luck because like I definitely recommend that people see this movie in theaters. Like I think I saw it in like standard, but people were saying even IMAX is like even more impressive or stuff like that. Like I'm sure the Dolby Digital ones have the booming sound, like everything. I think this movie deserves a theatrical experience if you can go. And I mean all of them really. I'm a sucker for all the superhero stuff, but um yeah. So yeah, Fantastic Four was great. I do want to take a brief moment to just kind of briefly mention some of the other movies and TV things that have been making a splash lately.
Go for it.
So South Park just had a huge trending moment. I don't know if anyone watches South Park. I'm not someone who watches South Park uh, often. I've seen a few episodes here and there,
I
but
did when they were at the height of it. When it was like when it first came out, like I said, I'm 39. So like when it first
mhm,
came out, I did watch it. I was in that whole, pantheon of it. I have not seen this most recent thing. I know about everything that happened because I'm on threads and the internet. So I
mhm.
know it happened and I know the cultural zeitgeist moment it's had, but I haven't sat down and watched it yet. But I'm actually interested in it because since we were talking about James Gunn, it's kind of that same type of humor, but it's done to the it's done in a way that's actually making people more politically aware. And so I'm interested in seeing where they are now in 2025 versus when I was first watching them in like the early 2000s when I was like a teenager.
Yeah, like it's definitely it was just a trending moment that I felt was worth mentioning. I did watch it, the new episode. Claude, were you able to watch it or hear about it?
I've heard about it. I'm not like I basically never watched South Park. Like I've seen clips that have gone viral and things like that, or little bits here and there, but it's not really a show that I pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say. I'll just say, yeah, it definitely like it's definitely raunchy humor, edgy humor, and I feel like with most things that are like very comedic, you're gonna have, hit or miss jokes, right? So just go if you do go into it, just go into it knowing what you're getting into, because like South
South
Park
Park
is
has a
not for
very, they
everybody.
have a very distinct aesthetic and humor. And so if
Hmm.
you've never watched South Park and this is your first time watching South Park, I'll just say this, you're going to get a very huge dose of what South Park is. I'm pretty sure, even though I haven't watched it, from the clips I've seen and the cultural zeitgeist around it and what I remember about them, it sounds like it's very much within the vein of their humor that they've
Yeah.
always done politically.
All right. I want to mention a few other things. Sandman season 2 is now on Netflix. This is something that is not as popular in the discourse because Neil Gaiman had a
That's what
big
they say,
scandal
Neil. Yeah.
between seasons 1 and 2, and if anyone has not read up about that, I'm just going to let you know. Like the allegations against him are pretty serious,
Mhm.
and so I think that's why people who have been fans of Sandman in the past are not as like vocal to praise this new season. I mean, I only watched the first episode of season 2. Um, I have a lot of thoughts just on that episode alone and the trajectory of it. I mean, like we talked a little bit about, what is progress as far as racial representation. I think this show raises that question a lot. Maybe some ways positively, maybe some ways very negatively. Uh, I won't get into it, but I will just say it's out there. Maybe we might need to add that into a future discussion. I don't know. If you're listening to this, let
Go
us know
watch
what
it.
you think. Are you watching it? Are you not watching it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've never actually dived into any Neil Gaiman, anything. I haven't read any of his stuff. I haven't, and it's just because I've never gotten to it. I don't know anything about him. And then when it came onto Netflix and all the controversy, I just kind of like, well, I've never dived into it. And it sounds like he's kind of unsavory anyway. And so I kind of pulled away. And again, I just never got into it, not because of anything I knew about him. I just never got around to the books and the discussion around it. But now I kind of feel like, well, all right. There's a lot of other things I can enjoy from people who I think aren't unsavory, and I have a lot of catching up to do anyway. So.
I will give a little mild spoiler for fans of Interview with a Vampire. Jacob Anderson is in this new season. I will not comment on what role he plays. I haven't seen him in the show yet because he's not in the first episode of season 2. But it does make me kind of want to continue the season because I am a fan of Jacob Anderson. But again, I said this is a very problematic show, so I can't guarantee that I will watch it or not. We'll see. Um, that's all I just wanted to mention. Um, but speaking of actors who I am a fan of, I just also want to mark the passing of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Like that was devastating. Like he was so young. He was in his 50s. He passed this past week, and
And he
it
wasn't
was a
sick.
drowning.
Yeah,
He
that's what I'm saying.
wasn't
Like he
sick.
wasn't
Yeah,
sick or anything. He just kind of passed as he was out on vacation, I think, with his
yeah,
family, right? Yeah.
yeah. He was in the ocean, and unfortunately, he drowned. Like maybe he got caught
Yeah.
into a current or something. I don't know all the exact details, but it happens. It's very reminiscent of when Naya Rivera passed, which was also for me very devastating. I was a fan of her on Glee,
Mm.
um, and it's just it's always disappointing when we see younger people pass away, but this was extra disappointing because of what he represented. Like he was an example of someone who never had any scandal or any kind of problematic things. Like and in his death, everyone is like just has nothing but praise
Yeah.
and just joy and sorrow and just like over his loss. Like it's like he was a role model to so many people. And I just had to mention him because
Yeah.
he will be missed. So may he rest in peace. Um, but last thing I'll mention is some interesting news that I heard a rumor that Regina King might be directing a Bitterroot movie or show. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's still in development, but if that's true, I'm kind of interested. I'm just starting to get into that comic book series. I don't know how many people are on board yet, but if you haven't heard of Bitterroot, look it up. It's a comic book. It's a by Black creators. It's pretty good. I have the first trade. I just read that recently. Um, and if it gets a film, that'll bring even more attention or a show. So I think that's something to keep your eyes on.
I actually did. I have it as well. I got the Kickstarter. I think David F. Walker just finished up a Kickstarter a while back, and so I backed it, and the package that I backed came with the whole omnibus of the kind of the first elements of Bitterroot signed by him. So I have like the whole big
Awesome.
hardcover omnibus of it. So I'm excited to dive in because, and I did this because of the Regina King news. Like I'm really into Regina King. I love
Yeah, love her.
everything she does, all the
Yeah.
way back to Friday to
hmm
now, like everything she's
hmm
ever done. And so
The
I'm excited if
227
she
even.
does that. Huh?
Have you seen 227? Like she's been around for so
Yeah,
long.
yeah. And so I feel like if she's directing it, then I was like, I want this. I want to buy this. And I'd always had it in my background. I was like, yeah, this is one of those things I got to read. I got to read. But this rumor made me really aware of it. And I was like, okay, let me go buy it. Let me go dive into it. And so I'm excited for it as well. I can't wait to dive in and read more about it.
All right. So we will definitely be talking about that as more news about that comes up. Okay, last thing I'll mention, San Diego Comic-Con happened
Now,
now. It's happening now. So like I'm not the one to come to for news because I'm not there, but I do want to just encourage people to kind of like look up the other nerds in the space who are like reporting on the news and just kind of like letting us know what's going on because apparently lots of cool stuff is on the radar happening, um, and it's exciting. So
yeah.
um, I think that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you, Dr. Samudio. It was a pleasure to have you here sharing your opinions and definitely hope you can come back anytime you're interested. Claude, always a pleasure to have you as well. And thanks to all the listeners and viewers of this episode. We appreciate you so much. If you can like, subscribe, follow us on social media, we definitely appreciate that as well. And yeah, hopefully we will have at least one of each club every month. I'm kind of working on that where we can do one comic book club and one TV movie club. So look forward to that. If you're interested to join us next time, uh, send me a message. I am primarily on Threads, which has DMs now, but I'm also on Blue Sky. Also, I might put maybe a Google form or something where we can kind of like plan for the next one because I feel like the more the merrier. The only constraints are time. But thank you all again, and until next time, my friends, Excelsior! Bye
See you.
bye.